Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be diving into the world of business strategy.
Okay.
And more specifically, we're focusing on blue ocean strategy.
All right.
You sent over some excerpts from the expanded edition of the book, Blue Ocean Strategy, by W. Chan Kim and Renée Mauborgne.
Right.
And I'm really excited to kind of unpack all this with you.
Yeah, this is a book that I think really changed the conversation around competition.
Yeah, so, for anyone who's maybe not familiar, just to quickly set the stage,
Sure.
instead of just like battling it out in these like existing crowded markets,
Right.
what the authors call red oceans,
Yeah.
blue ocean strategy is all about creating new uncontested market spaces
Yeah.
where competition becomes irrelevant.
It's like finding calm waters in a stormy sea.
Exactly.
Exactly. The book really emphasizes that it's not about outperforming the competition in existing markets, but about creating new markets where competition is minimized.
And this brings to mind some of the case studies that are in the book
Mm-hmm.
that I think are really interesting.
Like Yellowtail,
Right.
the Australian wine that really kind of made a splash in the U.S. market.
Yep.
Or Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah.
Which, completely revolutionized the circus experience.
Both are great examples of companies that successfully implemented this blue ocean thinking.
Yeah.
And the book does a good job of breaking down the principles and frameworks behind their success,
Right.
which I think makes it so useful for anyone trying to apply these ideas.
For sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
so-
So let's dive into the core of blue ocean strategy,
Okay.
starting with this idea of value innovation.
Okay.
What makes this concept so important?
Well, value innovation is really the cornerstone of blue ocean strategy.
Right.
It's not about simply beating the competition at their own game.
Okay.
It's about making them irrelevant
Mm.
by creating a leap in value for both the buyer
Okay.
and the company.
And the book uses a visual that I thought was really helpful called the strategy canvas
Yes.
to contrast red ocean versus blue ocean approaches.
It's a powerful visual.
In a red ocean, companies are all bunched together trying to outperform each other on the same set of factors.
Right.
But a blue ocean strategy creates a completely different curve, highlighting different factors and offering a different kind of value.
And the authors also stress that coming up with a great idea
Right?
isn't enough.
Yeah,
Executing a blue ocean strategy is just as crucial.
absolutely.
And they highlight this concept of fair process as being a really key part of this.
Fair process is about building trust and commitment
Okay.
by involving employees in the decision-making process, especially when you're implementing significant changes.
Right.
When people feel heard and respected, they're more likely to embrace a new strategy.
And the book has that cautionary tale about the company Lubber
Right.
to illustrate how not to handle employee buy-in during a strategic shift.
Right. It emphasizes that neglecting fair process can lead to resistance
Yeah,
and ultimately derail even the most brilliant strategies.
for sure.
You need your team on board for successful execution.
So speaking of finding new approaches,
Yeah.
the 6 Paths framework seems like a really valuable tool
Yeah.
for anyone who's trying to discover their own blue ocean.
Yeah.
Can you kind of walk us through that a little bit?
The 6 paths provide a systematic way to challenge traditional thinking and uncover new opportunities.
Okay.
It encourages you to look beyond the obvious and consider new perspectives.
Okay, so break it down for me.
Okay.
Path 1 is look across alternative industries.
Right.
And the NetJets example I thought was so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not an airline,
Right.
but it's offering a kind of private air travel
Right.
that pulls customers away from commercial airlines by addressing their specific needs.
Exactly. NetJets recognize that people who value the flexibility and convenience of corporate jets
Right.
aren't necessarily thrilled with the high costs and administrative burdens of owning one.
Yeah.
So they created a fractional ownership model that provides a different value proposition.
And then path 2 is look across strategic groups within industries. And the book uses Curb's Fitness as an example.
Right.
And I thought it was so interesting how they appealed to a specific customer group, women,
Yeah.
who wanted a simpler, more supportive fitness experience
Yeah.
by combining elements of like home workout programs
Right?
with the social aspects of a traditional gym.
Yeah. It was a brilliant strategy that really took off.
Yeah.
Path 3 is look across the chain of buyers.
Oh,
The Bloomberg example really highlights this.
what was so unique about Bloomberg's approach?
Bloomberg recognized that the actual users of financial data,
Okay.
the traders and analysts,
Okay,
often had different needs and priorities than the corporate purchasers who made the buying decisions.
interesting.
So they tailored their product and services to those end users,
Okay.
which gave them a real edge.
So looking beyond the obvious seems to be a recurring theme here.
Definitely.
Path 4, look across complementary product and service offerings.
Right.
Really reinforces this. It encourages you to consider the broader context of how your product or service is used.
Yeah.
This one reminds me of the example of Philips Electronics
Yeah.
and the British tea kettle industry.
Ah, yes. They realized that the problem wasn't the kettle itself,
Right.
but the lime scale in the water that affected the taste of the tea.
Huh. Interesting.
So they created a kettle that addressed this complementary issue,
Okay.
and it was a game changer.
It wasn't about making a better kettle.
Right.
It was about understanding the whole tea drinking experience.
Precisely.
And then we have QB House, the Japanese haircutting chain.
Yeah.
They looked at complementary services in a different way,
Right.
realizing many customers valued speed and efficiency over those like traditional salon rituals.
Right.
So they stripped those away
Yep.
and introduced an air wash system
Mhm.
to dramatically reduce haircutting time.
Instead of trying to improve on existing salon experiences, they created a whole new category.
So fast.
It's about identifying unmet needs and finding creative ways to address them.
Path 5 is look across functional or emotional appeal to buyers. And this is where Yellowtail, I think, stands out.
Yeah, they really turned the traditional wine industry on its head.
What was it about their approach that resonated so well?
Well, Yellowtail rejected the pretentious and intimidating image of the traditional wine industry
Okay.
and made wine approachable and fun.
Okay.
Their vibrant labels, the kangaroo logo,
Right.
and their focus on simple, fruity flavors
Yeah.
attracted a whole new demographic
Right.
who might have felt excluded or overwhelmed by traditional wine culture.
They redefined what wine could be
Exactly.
by understanding the underlying desires of their target audience.
Exactly. And QB House also tapped into this path
Okay.
by shifting the haircut experience from an emotional pampering experience to a functional one,
Okay.
emphasizing speed, efficiency, and hygiene.
Interesting.
They recognize that not everyone wants the bells and whistles of a traditional salon.
Right. Right. Okay. And finally, path 6,
Okay.
look across time.
Yes.
This one I think is particularly relevant in today's rapidly changing world.
Yeah.
The book uses Apple as an example,
Right.
highlighting how they anticipated that shift from physical CDs to digital music
Right.
with iTunes and the iPod.
Yeah, it's not just about spotting a trend.
Yeah.
It's about understanding its trajectory
Okay.
and how it will reshape the market.
Yeah.
Apple saw where things were heading
Right.
and positioned themselves to capitalize on that shift.
So thinking ahead and kind of anticipating how those evolving trends
Right.
might create new opportunities or disrupt existing ones.
Exactly.
Now, these 6 paths,
Yeah.
are they meant to be used in isolation?
They're not meant to be used in isolation.
Okay.
You can and should look across multiple paths to push your thinking
Okay.
and uncover truly innovative ideas.
So combining different perspectives
That's right.
to unlock those hidden opportunities.
That's right, and to do that effectively.
Yeah.
The book introduces another important principle, the power of visualizing strategy.
Which brings us back to the strategy canvas.
Yes.
What makes this tool so powerful?
The strategy canvas provides a clear and concise way to understand the competitive landscape
Okay.
and identify opportunities for blue oceans.
Yeah.
It helps you visualize where your current offerings stand in relation to the competition
Right.
and highlight areas where you can break away.
And the book shares that anecdote about the company EFS
Yes.
and how drawing their strategy canvas was kind of a wake-up call,
Yeah.
revealing that their strategy lacked focus and originality.
It's a great reminder that we often have blind spots when it comes to our own strategies.
Right.
Visualizing them in this way helps us to be more objective
Yeah.
and see things from a fresh perspective.
So we've talked about value innovation.
Yeah.
We've talked about fair process.
Yeah.
The 6 paths framework.
Mm-hmm.
The strategy canvas.
Right.
What else do we need to consider when we're developing a blue ocean strategy?
Well, one of the most important yet often overlooked aspects is this concept of non-customers.
Non-customers.
Yes. The authors challenge us to think beyond our existing customer base
Okay.
and explore untapped markets.
Okay, so tell me more about that.
Non-customers are people who are not currently buying your product or service,
Yeah.
but might be persuaded to if you can offer them a compelling reason.
Okay.
They represent a huge potential market that many businesses ignore.
And the book uses Callaway Golf as a great example
Mm-hmm.
of a company that successfully tapped into this non-customer market.
Yeah, they looked at people who were intimidated by traditional golf clubs
Okay.
and created a new line of clubs that were easier to hit and more forgiving.
Okay.
This brought in a whole new group of customers
Right.
who had previously felt excluded from the sport.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's about understanding the barriers that keep people from engaging with your product or service,
Right.
and then finding creative ways to overcome them.
Now, the book breaks down non-customers into 3 tiers, which I think is really helpful
Yeah.
for identifying and understanding these different groups.
Uh-huh.
So let's dive into those tiers.
Okay.
Who falls into that first tier?
The first tier are people who are on the edge of your market.
Okay.
They might occasionally buy your product or service,
Okay.
but they're not loyal customers and could easily switch to a competitor.
So they're almost customers,
Yes.
but not quite fully committed.
Then you have the second tier,
Okay.
which consists of people who are in completely different markets,
Okay.
but might have a need that your product or service could fulfill.
So they're not even considering your industry,
Right.
but there's potential there
Precisely.
if you can reach them with the right message.
And finally, the third tier
Okay.
are people who refuse to even consider your industry.
Okay.
They might have had a bad experience in the past,
Right.
or they simply don't see the value in what your industry offers.
Those are probably the toughest to convince.
Yeah, definitely a challenge.
But if you can figure out how to appeal to them,
Yeah.
the rewards could be huge.
A key is to find common ground, to identify what these different non-customer groups value
Okay.
and how your offering can address their needs.
So instead of segmenting your market further,
Right.
you're actually looking for ways to desegment it
That's a great way to put it.
by appealing to a broader base.
And this brings us to another critical aspect of Blue Ocean strategy,
Okay.
the concept of strategic sequence.
Strategic sequence.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It means thinking through the different stages of your strategy
Okay.
and ensuring they align in a way that creates a sustainable and profitable business.
Okay.
You need to ensure that your Blue Ocean remains a viable and successful venture.
So it's like creating that roadmap for success,
You got it.
taking into account all those different factors.
The book outlines 4 key steps in the strategic sequence: buyer utility,
Okay.
price, cost,
Okay.
and adoption. It emphasizes that each step must be carefully considered to ensure your offering is viable and attractive to both your target market
Yeah.
and your business.
So let's break down those steps.
Okay.
What does buyer utility entail?
It's about ensuring that your offering provides exceptional value to your target customers.
Okay.
It needs to solve a real problem for them
Yeah.
and make their lives better in a meaningful way.
Okay.
If your offering doesn't deliver tangible benefits, it won't gain traction no matter how innovative it is.
So it's not enough to just be different.
Right.
You have to offer genuine value
Exactly.
that resonates with your market.
Then comes price.
Okay.
You need to set a price that's attractive to customers
Right.
and allows you to make a profit.
So finding that sweet spot
That's right.
that makes it accessible to your target audience, but also financially sustainable for your business.
And then there's cost.
Okay.
You have to figure out how to deliver your offering at a cost that's sustainable for your business.
Makes sense.
This is where operational efficiency and smart resource allocation come into play.
So keeping your costs under control so you can maintain that profitability.
Precisely.
And then adoption.
Yeah, you have to manage the adoption of your offering,
Okay.
which means overcoming any potential resistance
Okay.
from employees, partners, or the public.
Yeah.
This could involve addressing concerns,
So, yeah.
providing training,
Right.
or building excitement around your new venture.
That's a really important point
Yeah.
because even with a great product or service,
Yeah.
if you don't have that buy-in from the
Right.
people
Right.
who are crucial to its success,
Right.
it can be an uphill battle.
You need everyone on board
Yeah.
and working together
Yeah.
to make your Blue Ocean strategy a reality.
So this strategic sequence
Yeah,
seems like a really valuable framework
absolutely.
for anyone who's developing a new product, a new service, a new business model.
It provides a roadmap for success by ensuring that all the pieces of the puzzle fit together seamlessly.
Now, the book uses the example of the Tata Nano,
Yes.
a car that was designed to be like the most affordable car in the world.
Right.
It faced challenges because of misalignment in its strategic sequence.
That's right. It had great buyer utility and an incredibly low price.
Okay.
But there were issues with cost and adoption that ultimately hampered its success.
So a great example of how even a brilliant idea can falter
Exactly.
if it's not supported by this solid strategic sequence.
Each step needs to be carefully considered and executed to ensure that the entire strategy is aligned and sustainable.
So before we move on to the next part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
what are some key takeaways that we should highlight about blue ocean strategy so far?
Well, it's crucial to remember that creating a blue ocean is just the beginning.
Okay.
You need a plan for sustaining that ocean,
Okay.
for anticipating and responding to competitive pressures,
Right.
and for staying true to the principles of value innovation.
And the authors offer a useful tool called the Pioneer Migrator Settler Map
Yes,
for
exactly.
thinking about that.
Yeah, we'll delve into that in more detail in the next part of our deep dive.
This has already given me a lot to think about.
Great.
I'm eager to learn more about sustaining those blue oceans
Okay.
and navigating those complexities of the business world.
Awesome.
Let's continue this conversation in part 2. Okay, so we laid the groundwork in part 1 for understanding what a blue ocean is
Right.
and kind of how to create one.
Right.
But as we touched on,
Yeah.
creating a blue ocean is just the first step.
Yeah.
What happens when the competition inevitably catches on?
That's a critical question.
Yeah.
The book emphasizes that blue oceans don't last forever.
Okay.
Eventually, competitors will notice your success and try to imitate it, turning your blue ocean red.
So how do you sustain a blue ocean?
All right. Okay.
How do you prevent it from becoming just another crowded market?
Yeah, it's not about building walls to keep competitors out,
Okay.
but about continuous innovation and staying ahead of the curve.
Okay, so you can't just rest on your laurels once you found your blue ocean.
Exactly.
You need to keep moving and evolving.
Yeah. The authors highlight Salesforce.com as a prime example
Okay.
of a company that has successfully renewed its blue ocean over the years.
Okay, so what did they do?
Well, they initially disrupted the customer relationship management CRM software industry
Okay.
with their cloud-based on-demand offering,
Okay.
making CRM accessible to businesses that couldn't afford or manage those big, complex traditional systems.
So they found their blue ocean by making a previously expensive and complex solution
Right.
accessible to a wider market.
Right. But then as competitors started offering similar cloud-based solutions,
Okay.
Salesforce.com didn't stand still.
Okay.
They introduced Force.com, a cloud-based development platform,
Okay.
and AppExchange, an app marketplace,
Right.
which allowed their customers to customize and extend their CRM solutions even further.
So they essentially built an ecosystem
Precisely.
around their core offering,
Yeah.
creating more value and making it harder for competitors to just copy them.
Right. And they didn't stop there.
Okay.
They continued innovating with products like Chatter, a
Right.
private social networking platform for businesses,
Okay.
which further enhanced collaboration and addressed the limitations of traditional CRM systems.
Their ability to sustain their blue ocean over such a long period
Yeah.
in such a rapidly changing industry is pretty impressive.
It really highlights the importance of continuous innovation and the willingness to adapt.
So for someone trying to put this into practice,
Yeah.
what are the key takeaways? How
Yeah.
can they sustain their own blue ocean?
First, recognize that creating a blue ocean is just the beginning.
Okay.
You need a plan for sustaining it.
Okay.
Second, be prepared to adapt and evolve.
Okay.
The competitive landscape is constantly changing,
Right.
so your strategy needs to be flexible enough to keep up.
Yeah.
And third, never stop innovating.
Got it.
Yeah.
You need to be proactive,
Right.
anticipate those challenges.
Yeah. The book also offers a useful tool
Go.
for thinking about the growth potential of different business offerings
Okay.
called the Pioneer Migrator Settler Map.
Pioneer Migrator Settler Map.
Yeah.
I'm curious to learn more about this.
Okay.
Can you break down those categories for me?
Think of it as a way to assess the life cycle of your offerings.
Okay.
Pioneers are those offerings that are creating new market space and driving significant growth.
Okay.
Like Salesforce.com was with its initial cloud-based CRM offering.
Okay.
They're the stars,
Okay.
the ones with the highest potential, but also the most vulnerable to imitation.
Because they're the first.
Exactly.
They haven't had to face competition yet, but it's only a matter of time.
Then you have the migrators.
Okay.
These are offerings that have moved beyond that initial blue ocean creation phase
Okay.
and are now competing in a more crowded market space.
So they're in a more mature market.
Right.
And they need to find ways to differentiate themselves.
Right. And finally, you have the settlers.
Oh.
These are offerings that are well established in a mature market
Okay.
and are primarily focused on maintaining their market share.
So you could have a product or service that's
Right.
still very successful,
Right.
but it's reached a point where it's not going to experience that same rapid growth
Exactly.
as like a pioneer would.
It's about recognizing where each of your offerings stands in this life cycle
Yeah.
and making strategic decisions accordingly.
So what's the ideal scenario?
Yeah.
Is it about having a balanced portfolio of these?
Yes. That way, you're continuously generating new growth with your pioneers,
Okay.
capitalizing on your existing strengths with your migrators,
Okay.
and maintaining a stable foundation with your settlers.
Okay.
As your pioneers inevitably become migrators,
Right.
and your migrators eventually become settlers,
Right.
you need to be ready to launch new pioneers
Yeah.
to keep the cycle going and ensure continued growth.
So it's like having this constant pipeline of innovation,
Exactly.
always looking for those next blue oceans.
And the book emphasizes that blue oceans aren't just about products and services.
Yeah.
They can also be created in areas like pricing, delivery models,
Yeah.
and even customer service.
A good example is Netflix.
Absolutely.
They revolutionized home entertainment
Right.
with that subscription-based streaming service.
Right. It was a whole new way of consuming media
Right.
that challenged the traditional movie rental model.
And it wasn't just a new product, it was a
Nah.
whole new way of
Yes.
consuming media.
And it created a blue ocean that traditional video rental stores simply couldn't compete with.
Yeah.
It's a great example of how blue ocean thinking can be applied across different aspects of a business.
So there are lots of different ways to create a blue ocean.
Right.
The key is to be creative,
Right.
challenge existing assumptions about how things are done.
Don't be afraid to question industry norms and look for innovative ways to deliver value to your customers.
Now, a common misconception I think about blue ocean strategy is that it's all about low cost.
Right.
But that's not necessarily the case, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay.
While cost is certainly a factor,
Yeah.
it's not the defining characteristic of a blue ocean strategy.
Yeah.
Some of the most successful blue ocean creators like Cirque du Soleil and Starbucks
Right.
actually command premium prices.
Because they offer something so unique and valuable that justifies that higher price.
The key is to offer exceptional value that resonates with your target market and makes them willing to pay for it.
Right. And that value doesn't always have to come from adding more features or complexity.
Yeah.
Sometimes it comes from simplifying,
Absolutely.
eliminating those unnecessary elements.
Think of it as stripping away the unnecessary noise
Right.
and focusing on what truly matters to your customers.
So it's not about being the cheapest.
Right.
It's about offering the best value.
Exactly.
That value might come from a lower price,
Right.
but it could also come from
Yeah.
offering a premium experience,
Right.
a unique solution.
Yeah. The book does a great job of illustrating this with all those diverse examples.
Right.
From Yellowtail Wine to NetJets to Nintendo Wii,
Yeah.
each company found its blue ocean
Right.
by offering a unique value proposition that resonated with its target market.
So there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
The key is to apply these principles and frameworks in a way that makes sense.
Right. It's about understanding your customers and your own strengths.
Right.
And then using those insights to create an offering that stands out from the competition.
We've covered a lot of ground in this part.
Yeah.
Talked about sustaining blue oceans, the pioneer migrator settler map,
Right.
and that blue ocean thinking can be applied beyond just products and services.
Yeah.
What are some of the most important things to remember about blue ocean strategy
Yeah.
before we move on to our final part?
Well, it's a mindset shift, a way of looking at the world and challenging.
You can create new markets.
That you don't have to be limited by existing industry boundaries.
Right.
And that you can make competition irrelevant by offering a leap in value.
Yeah.
It's about embracing the possibility of creating something new and different.
It's about moving away from that head-to-head competition,
Exact.
finding new spaces to explore.
And it's also about understanding the importance of both differentiation and low cost,
Yeah.
of creating a unique offering that's also affordable and sustainable.
Right.
You want to create something desirable and attainable.
And having a plan for sustaining your blue oceans.
Absolutely.
Anticipating and responding to competition.
Yeah.
Continuously innovating to stay ahead of the curve.
Creating a blue ocean is not a one-time event.
Yeah.
It's a dynamic process
Right.
that requires ongoing attention and effort.
So it's about being proactive, adapting to change,
Right.
constantly seeking ways to improve and evolve.
Right. And lastly, it's about building a strong team,
Okay.
empowering your employees,
Yeah.
and creating a culture of innovation. You need to create an environment where people feel encouraged to think differently,
Right.
to challenge the status quo, and to contribute their ideas.
Because without the right people and the right culture,
Exactly.
even the best strategies can falter.
It's the people who bring the strategy to life.
Right.
It's their passion, their creativity, and dedication
Yeah.
that will ultimately determine the success of your blue ocean.
Okay, so we've talked about the strategic side of things.
Yeah.
But what about the human element?
Right.
The book also talks about the importance of leadership and culture
Right.
in creating and sustaining those blue oceans.
Yeah, let's explore that in part 3.
We talk a lot about the strategic elements of blue ocean strategy,
Right.
but there's this whole other layer to it. The book emphasizes the human element.
Yeah.
The leadership, the culture, the people
Yeah.
play a critical role in this whole process.
Absolutely. The authors argue that having the right people and the right mindset is just as important as having the right strategy.
And I'm really intrigued by this concept of tipping point leadership.
It's a fascinating idea. They suggest that to achieve significant and lasting change, leaders can't rely solely on those traditional top-down approaches.
Okay.
They need to create a groundswell of support from within the organization,
Right.
inspiring people to embrace change
Okay.
rather than forcing it upon them.
So it's not about issuing directives from the top.
Right.
It's about creating a movement
Yeah.
that pulls everyone in the same direction.
It's about changing hearts and minds, not just behaviors.
And they use the example of Bill Bratton,
Yes.
the former police commissioner of New York City,
Yeah.
who was tasked with tackling this seemingly insurmountable crime problem
Right.
instead of just focusing on tactics.
Yeah.
He focused on really shifting the culture
Yeah.
and the approach within the NYPD.
And what was it about his approach?
Yeah, what did he do differently?
Well, he understood that to make real change, he needed to connect with the people on the ground.
Okay.
He famously rode the subway,
Yeah.
which he called the electric sewer,
Right.
to see the problems firsthand.
Oh, okay. So he was out there experiencing those challenges, which I'm sure allowed him to make more informed decisions.
Right. And then he used that experience to make strategic decisions,
Okay.
redirecting resources away from cold spots where they weren't really having an impact.
Interesting.
So he didn't just sit in his office and analyze data, he got involved.
Yeah, and that, I'm sure, also helped him gain the trust of the officers.
Exactly. It not only gave him valuable insights, but also demonstrated his commitment to finding solutions.
It's a great example of how leadership can make a real difference in driving change.
Yeah.
Now, the book also outlines 3 techniques
Right.
that tipping point leaders use,
Okay.
focusing on kingpins, using fishbowl management,
Yeah.
and atomization.
Okay, so first let's talk about kingpins. Kingpins are the key influencers within an organization.
Yeah.
The people who can unlock resources, inspire others, and drive change.
Okay.
They might not always be in the most senior positions,
Okay.
but they have a significant impact on how things get done.
So it's about identifying those individuals who have the power to make or break a new initiative.
Right, and tipping point leaders focus on getting these kingpins on board early on.
Okay.
Because they understand that if they can win over the influencers,
Right.
the rest of the organization is more likely to follow.
Makes a lot of sense.
It's about building a coalition of support
Yeah.
from those who have the most influence and credibility within the organization.
Okay, and then fishbowl management.
This technique is about making the decision-making process more transparent and accountable.
So it's about shining a light on how decisions are made,
Right.
ensuring everyone feels involved and informed.
It's like everyone's watching what's happening,
Right.
which discourages backroom deals or hidden agendas.
Yeah.
It creates a sense of fairness and trust.
Right. And people are more likely to support a decision
Right.
if they understand the rationale behind it and feel like their voices have been heard.
Exactly. It's not just about making the right decisions, but about making them in the right way.
Right.
In a way that builds trust
Yeah.
and encourages collaboration.
And then finally, there's atomization.
This technique involves breaking down a big, overwhelming goal
Right.
into smaller, more manageable pieces.
This really resonates with me.
Mm.
I think we often get overwhelmed when we try to tackle a huge challenge all at once.
Exactly.
Breaking it down makes it feel much more achievable.
It's less daunting.
Yeah.
And it creates a sense of momentum
Yeah.
as people achieve these smaller milestones along the way.
Right.
It keeps people motivated and engaged because they can see tangible progress being made.
It's creating a roadmap
That's a great way to put it.
with clear markers along the way.
Yeah.
So you always know where you're going and how far you've come.
These techniques, focusing on kingpins, using fishbowl management, and atomizing big goals,
Yeah.
can be incredibly effective in driving change
Right.
and getting people on board with a new strategy.
So it's not just about having that brilliant idea.
Right.
It's about bringing people along on that journey
Absolutely.
and creating that shared sense of purpose.
And the book uses the example of comic relief
Okay.
to show how all these principles,
Okay.
value innovation, fair process, strategic sequence, and tipping point leadership,
Okay.
can work together to create a truly sustainable blue ocean.
What makes Comic Relief such a good example?
Well, Comic Relief is a UK-based charity
Okay.
that has raised billions of dollars for poverty relief.
Okay.
They've done it by creating this unique and engaging fundraising model that's fun, accessible, and highly effective.
Okay.
They've managed to create a blue ocean in a space that's typically very competitive and challenging.
But instead of competing with other charities for the same pool of donors, they found a way to create their own unique value proposition.
Yeah, they understood the importance of creating a sense of shared purpose
Right.
and making it easy and enjoyable for people to contribute.
Yeah.
They've successfully tapped into the power of collective action
Wow.
and created a movement that has had a significant impact on the world.
It's an inspiring example of how blue ocean thinking can be used to create that positive social change.
Absolutely.
It's not just about profits, it's about making a difference.
And it reinforces the idea that the principles of blue ocean strategy are universal.
Right.
They can be applied to any organization in any industry that's looking to create new value and break away from the competition.
Yeah.
It's a mindset and approach to problem solving that can be incredibly powerful.
So after taking this deep dive into blue ocean strategy, what stands out to you as the most important takeaway for our listener?
I think it's the idea that blue oceans are not a static destination, but a dynamic process.
Okay.
They don't just appear out of thin air.
Yeah.
Right. They're created through conscious effort,
Okay.
strategic thinking, and a willingness to challenge the status quo.
Right. And then sustaining them requires that ongoing attention,
Absolutely.
that innovation.
It's about constantly pushing the boundaries
Yeah.
and seeking new ways to create value.
So it's not a one-time achievement.
Exactly.
It's an ongoing journey
Yeah.
of exploration and innovation.
And it's crucial to remember that people are at the heart of this journey.
Yeah.
It's about building a culture of trust, empowering your team,
Right.
and creating an environment where everyone feels inspired to contribute their best.
So fostering that spirit of creativity and collaboration that allows those blue oceans to thrive.
The strategies and frameworks are important,
Yeah.
but ultimately it's the people who make it happen.
To wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
what's the one question you want to leave our listener with?
Yeah.
Something that will keep them thinking about blue oceans.
Okay.
And maybe inspire them to explore their own uncharted waters.
What industry boundaries are you taking for granted?
Hmm.
What assumptions are you making about your customers, your competitors,
Okay.
or even your own capabilities that might be limiting your thinking?
Yeah.
Because if you can challenge those assumptions, look across those boundaries, and tap into those unmet needs,
Right.
you might just discover your own blue ocean waiting to be explored.
That's a fantastic question to ponder.
Yeah,
It's a call to action,
it is.
an invitation to think differently and challenge the status quo.
Yeah.
Who knows? Your own blue ocean might be just around the corner.
Exactly. It's out there waiting to be discovered.
Well, this has been a truly insightful deep dive.
Thank you.
Thanks for guiding us through these complex concepts
My pleasure.
and sharing your expertise.
I hope this has inspired our listener to set sail on their own blue ocean adventure.
Happy blue ocean hunting.